New PulseChain developments, interesting truth bomb tweets from the founder Richard Hart, moving of the sacrifice funds, and of course, drama and outrage. We're going to talk about all of it, but let's just focus on first what has been happening in the PulseChain ecosystem. A lot of people ask, is PulseChain a scam? I thought that thing was dead. It's very much not so. It's alive and well. For those of you just tuning in, PulseChain beat the SEC, Hex and PulseX defeated the SEC along with Richard Hart. The case was thrown out, dismissed. We all know that, but if you're new, you might not. As clearly some of the haters online still choose to believe this is a scam, some kind of elaborate multi-6-year long con. But to be honest, the community is alive and well. I'm going to show you right now. Grant Cardone was spotted in a PulseChain Spaces on X. So you got these guys, KR and Panos and all these other guys. They always join in for online spaces on X, and sometimes they bring in some heavy hitters, like Grant Cardone, real estate mogul, 1.2 million followers. This guy has been interested in PulseChain for a long time. He actually had a bag at one point. People don't know this. Grant Cardone, multimillionaire, real estate guru. It's very funny, but he is interested in actual crypto and decentralized tech. And I think he sold his PulseChain, but obviously he's still listening because he popped into this space to hear what was going on. So you do have a lot of high-profile people paying attention to PulseChain. Andrew Tate, somebody had tracked his wallets a long time ago and found that he was yield farming on PulseX, believe it or not. All these kinds of, Ivan on tech. A lot of people have a what-if, just-in-case bag for PulseChain. They're all watching it from the sidelines, whether they want to admit it or not. So I thought that was interesting, worth taking a look at. Of course, Peacock and Top Hat, the Dream Team dual meme coin combo. Liberty Swap, just making updates after updates. They're the primary cross-chain bridge, privacy preserving to get from Base to Solana, PulseChain, all these different chains connected as one. And their main coin is Peacock token, and they're buying the token up in their treasury with all the trading fees that go through Liberty Swap. Really interesting idea. That's why I aped in and rotated all my most token into Peacock token, if you haven't heard that. My new meme coin play is Peacock, and of course Top Hat, heavily liquidity bonded, gets to go up for the ride along with LPX strategies. So in terms of the meme coin ecosystem, that's alive and well. People are always going to be doing the meme coin casino stuff. Those are my two picks for right now. Now the mail campaign. PulseChain has been having this marketing campaign going on. You might have even received one of these in the mail, sending out these free LCD writing tablets, these gifts. These are about $10, a free item. But due to the negative stigma that a lot of people have, we've had a lot of very ungrateful, hateful people just spitting in our face when they receive their free gift. So this guy, Mr. Ben Simpson, is tweeting about his free PulseChain direct mail marketing gift being a literal physical scam, whatever that means. And people just don't understand this. It's hilarious to me. It's like they're getting mad at the Domino's pizza ad in the mail. Like imagine I've never seen people so triggered by the mail than I have with PulseChain and Hex, because the community is known for sending out postcards, usually postcards. But now with these free gifts, these are a physical device, very simple electronic. And yet the populace is either clueless, has no idea what PulseChain is, or they spaz out and they fall for the rage bait and they make these long, elaborate posts thinking that they're going to get brownie points for being hateful, towards PulseChain. And honestly, it's kind of cringe at this point. This guy, Ben Simpson, he used to work with Alex Saunders, who's a known crypto scammer who was caught red-handed, borrowing money from a bunch of other influencers, even begging Richard Hart for money, and then leverage trading it all, losing it all, getting addicted to painkillers. This is his buddy. Ben Simpson's that guy's buddy. So, look, they're self-proclaimed crypto gurus, and it's always the ones that point the fingers the loudest that tend to rage the loudest online. It's like it's a very 2021 mindset to still think that Hex and PulseChain's a scam, to still get so upset that it's existing and just not going anywhere, only getting stronger. But this kind of thing, this kind of reaction is nothing new to the PulseChain enthusiasts. If you go under this guy's comments, it's nothing but, what's the problem? Hey, this looks like not a scam. 300 likes. All the people saying scam, they've got like 2 or 3 likes. People just don't want to take the extra 5 minutes to look in and realize the actual untapped opportunity of PulseChain. Staring them in the face, life-changing returns still on the table. I mean, the whole ecosystem is backed by like $8 to $10 million of stablecoin liquidity, meaning $100 million could 100x the price coming in and net buy pressure. It's not very unreasonable to think. People are building on it. People are marketing, promoting. So maybe people get triggered because they develop this scarcity mindset in crypto where, if you're promoting one coin, you're taking away from my other coin. Because they think that there's this finite amount of attention supply, which there is, but there's 8 billion people in the world. So eventually it will be finite, but a lot of people are just, throwing stones at like the same 12 dudes online. It's just like one big poker table. A lot of people aren't focused on the 99% of people that haven't heard about their actual project yet. People have heard about Bitcoin, but no one's heard about PulseChain in the real world. And so that scarcity mindset thing is it's sad, because some people don't give themselves the opportunity, the open-mindedness to even have a chance at doing Ethereum over again, which is like what PulseChain could be for a lot of people. Now there's a new platform on Base. It's kind of like a crypto version of Instagram. We'll talk about this next. It's called Zora, but not quite yet. First, I want to go up and just highlight. We've got a really great website out there called pulsechainstats.com. While everybody's screaming about PulseChain being a scam, whatever, They're distracting themselves. They're getting wrecked over on Hyperliquid. Crypto has just become this kind of disheartening arena where people just leverage trade all day. No one believes in anything. PulseChain is one of those last bastions of hope and optimism where people actually stand behind their convictions. And while everybody's crying and following false leaders and traders that fake their P&L screenshots, you've got PulseChain accumulating $56 million of stablecoins on chain. And a lot of companies are offering these white label stablecoin services now. So I wanted to point this out because when you do contact these companies, the amount of stablecoins on your chain does matter a lot. And 56 million in terms of real stablecoins on chain. This is not a small amount of money. This puts PulseChain in maybe the top 50 chains of all the layer 1s and layer 2s. You can go to DeFi Llama. I think it's number 45. So for PulseChain to only be 2 years old and be in the top 50 of stablecoin liquidity, which actually matters a lot more than altcoin liquidity, because I could just mint $1 trillion of a meme coin, tie that to like $500,000 of stable coins and say, oh, look, because it's all tied back to $1 eventually, I've got, 1 billion TVL. But then you look under the hood, do they really have 1 billion TVL? So what matters most is core tokens and stable coins, because that actually marks the value in US dollars for a lot of these networks. It doesn't really mean much to say, oh, I've got meme coin A tied to meme coin B, and that liquidity pool is like $50 million because I just made it up. Should that really count towards your chain's TVL? No, but a lot of chains count it anyway. So this metric right here is good when you're bragging about actual on-chain TVL and when you're trying to get stablecoins white labeled, reaching out to some of these stablecoin as a service providers. I encourage any builders to take a stab at that. That could actually be a very profitable route or strategy for PulseChain. Now, in terms of strategy for PulseChain as well, we've got people using AI art, and there's a giveaway, a crypto giveaway. The best Sora 2 video in this thread right here is going to earn $50 worth of Pulse. Now, you got to get an invite code for Sora. This is ChatGPT's new image generation software, but the reason I'm talking about it is because it does have a lot of virality potential. People are getting very excited about it. Look, this is Richard Hart in a South Park cartoon style right here. And my personal strategy for getting around the censorship on Sora, because they don't let you just do copyrighted stuff. Here's a hot tip for, shilling your bags. When you're promoting your cryptos out there, you want to pump your bags. Sora does have virality potential. If you make a good Sora, it could go viral. And what I've been doing is playing around in Google AI Studio, because this is free. Google AI Studio is free. It's got really fast image generation. So you could make, a Family Guy style, Rick and Morty style, Richard Hart, whatever. You can just make a funny idea for a PulseChain skit or whatever coin you're trying to shill. Make it funny, make it outrageous, but instead of actually typing, make something in Rick and Morty style, because Sora is going to block you if you try to do that. You understand? So you need to make the images first in Google AI Studio. And the best way to get around the censorship is then you hop over to Sora and you say, hey, Sora, animate this image. And believe it or not, it'll even add in sometimes the voices, like the Peter Griffin voice. It'll actually do that just by knowing and recognizing the picture, because it's been trained on, millions and millions of videos of every single TV show in existence. So $50 giveaway for whoever's got the funniest clip. I really do believe that Sora, yes, it is AI brain rot, but that's what a lot of people scroll when they're doom scrolling, right? They're just wanting to be entertained. So getting in front of them with something funny, something viral, this could be a very good strategy regardless of what crypto you're in. $50 giveaway. Take a look at it. Now we're going to move on over to Richard Hart. He's been talking about Amazon Web Services going down and AWS going down. Believe it or not, it affected a large part of crypto, which is counterintuitive because you're like, oh, crypto, isn't that supposed to be decentralized? Well, apparently a lot of this fake crypto stuff and regular, Prime Video, Venmo, a lot of these popular apps that people use have been crippled by over-reliance on these centralized database servers. Richard Hart's pointing that out here and saying, I hear that the PulseChain are aware of what's up and looking into it. So if you experience any downtime, especially on the base network, this was a really good call out for Liberty Swap here. Liberty Swap is saying, we heard Base runs on a single centralized sequencer. Now I believe them. And you could tell because a lot of Base apps, like Zora, which I'm about to show you, they did go down and they've been throttled. They have very limited access because they all rely on this fake decentralization scheme where there's only one sequencer. So limited network capacity because of AWS. This shouldn't really happen. It doesn't happen with PulseChain or Ethereum because they're hosted in a decentralized manner. Yes, some of the nodes are on AWS, but not all of them. But when you only have like one major corporation holding up all the nodes, this gets a little hairy. And this is what Richard's pointing out. He always points out the hypocrisy of fake crypto. And of course, he never lets a good tragedy go to waste. PulseChain's never had a problem. PulseChain's currently up. But, if you had an RPC node that was hosted on AWS or a website front end and it was running on AWS, you might have had some hiccups. Do not worry. People are working through that. It's getting fixed as we speak. But it just goes to show you, in terms of everyone wants to be decentralized. They always try to brag about it. But when the AWS goes down, you get to see whose architecture, whose crypto systems are really decentralized, or are they over-reliant on a central server. Now, Richard Hart, going back to the outrage marketing, going back to everybody getting pissed off about getting a tablet in the mail. First of all, the marketing campaign has just begun. It's only just gotten started. But Richard Hart, I think, is realizing and being very blunt with the community. Now, I really appreciate posts like this because it says what a lot of people have been thinking, right? The PulseChain community is tired of being treated like garbage, all just because when people say, why is it a scam? They just point to, oh, Richard Hart twerking in a Gucci tracksuit. So it looks like Richard is changing his approach, and he's said some similar type of things before in the past, but he's never said it so upfront, where he's talking about outrage marketing. He used to flash all of his watches, Lamborghinis, all that stuff. He's basically saying, look, if I could do it again, I would have just focused on normal ass bread and butter marketing. Marketing is what he used to do for a living. This is a screenshot of Internet Marketing Masters. This was his 2002 company. So Richard's been in the business game for a long time. People don't realize he's been rich and retired since his 20s. You know, he's like 40 now. So he's been in the game for a long time. And he talks about his outrage marketing. He says you only get one chance to make a first impression. And I do agree about this. It's kind of hard to sell to a normal LinkedIn bro when they go Google PulseChain.com and they see Richard, you know, flashing around, talking about his watches and doing all this stuff. So he says, do you want more followers or do you want more influence? Because they're not the same thing. Not all engagement is worth having. Not every like is worth the same. Not every follower is created equal. And I think that's where we're at with PulseChain right now. It's a brutal truth bomb, but it's also a nice turning point because you're kind of like, oh, he gets it. We all get it. Everyone kind of knows. We're all tired of having to do this uphill battle of getting respect, basically, because you do get a lot of followers. And yes, Richard's outrage marketing did get him, I think, double the followers in a very short time frame. But what quality? You know, you get a lot of short-term thinkers, a lot of quick guys coming in to get rich quick, guys that are attracted by that sort of flashy thing. When the people that were actually in the know, you know, they were following his live streams for a while. They followed his debates. Yes, we like the guy because he's a truth teller. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's very upfront and direct. Might be kind of abrasive at times, but certain things were a little over the top where, you know, you didn't have to do all that. Because at some point, you kind of want to attract people that are level-headed, mentally sane. And even though the PulseChain community does see through, and that's the thing about the community, they're the ones that passed the IQ test of looking past Richard's flashy, you know, Rolex bragging. And they realized, oh, this guy built an actual product. Oh, he actually really cares about decentralization. He cares more about his projects than any other founder I'm aware of. And most importantly, he wants to make the number go up. And he wants to make everybody free in the process. He doesn't compromise on the OG ideals, the cypherpunk ethos of crypto. He doesn't compromise on centralization like so many other founders do. He doesn't dump his tokens like so many other founders do. Charlie Lee, Vitalik, all these guys dump their coins all the time. Richard's never dumped a single coin. The only struggle in dealing with the aftermath of outrage marketing is basically that in order to get a cleaner image and get more cooperation in the real world, you have to get past all that stuff, which it happened 2-3 years ago, which it's fading away. So in my opinion, this is Richard Hart just putting a little cap on it, saying, well, that era is behind us. Probably wouldn't do that again. It kind of worked, kind of got him in some trouble, and kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in certain people's mouth. Now, we don't care. You know, we've been kicked in the balls so many times. PulseChain holders down 90%, Hex down 90%. We've been going sideways for so long, and so many other altcoins are in the same boat. So at this point, nothing faces me anymore. A lot of us are in the same, like, okay, what else is new? There's nothing a hater could possibly say that we haven't heard before. But this feels like a great community turning point where everyone's kind of relieved that, yes, maybe we'll get the OG Richard back. And it's just nice to be acknowledged. Nice to acknowledge that strange little chapter in Hex history back in 2021, early 2022. You get the organically viral vids, you get a documentary. It's okay, it's better than nothing, but it comes with some baggage. It comes with some Louis Vuitton baggage as well. Now, Richard Hart, always adaptable, right? Always changing, a smart guy, but the ability to say, all right, maybe we'll pivot direction, maybe we'll pivot strategy here. That's something good. That's something that you want to see in a crypto founder. Now he's talking about gold as well. Richard's talking about gold being down. For 20 years in a row, gold went down. And just because gold did a double in the past couple of years, all the eyes are on it. You know, crypto has so much more potential than this. It's so much less liquid. And imagine all the money that it took to push gold up to $4,200. Gold made an all-time high if you haven't been following, but it's not like people are making life-changing gains on gold. Sure, maybe if you bought it 5 years ago, you're up a double. You bought it at $2,000, now it's at $4,000, congratulations. That can happen in crypto. That's happened in Hex overnight. Very, very easy for crypto. Now he's charting Ethereum versus gold. Look at even Ethereum has been rising versus gold. But as we know, for the past 4 years, Ethereum has struggled to break its all-time high. Pitiful. We all want more. We all want that blow-off top that we're all waiting for. You got to wait till the institutions pump it. You got to wait till Tom Lee, BlackRock, Vanguard, everyone's got to establish their yield-bearing ETFs. They've got to shill it. They've got to lock it all down. They've got to figure out their marketing plan. And then October, this mythical October may start. We might finally see. The Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates 2 and maybe 3 more times before the end of the year. This is almost a 99% chance guarantee. Obviously, nothing's a guarantee, but if you look at the FedWatch tool, in 7 more days, they're going to probably lower the rates by 1 point or 25 basis points, and then 1 or 2 more times before the end of the year. So maybe we get that October. Maybe we get maybe $5,000-$6,000 Ethereum by the end of the year. I'm heavily leaning towards 2026 business cycle, not correlated to the 4-year cycle anymore. If you've been following my channel, you know I've been saying this for over a year. At this point, I was talking about the 4-year cycle being broken, I think last summer, almost a year and a half ago at this point. So the founder, Richard Hart, dropping some truth bombs, some real heart-to-heart moments, you know what I mean? And then he talks about gold. When you see people lining up to buy gold, normally that'd be a top signal, but because the treasuries are going down, nation states are selling their treasuries, they're selling all their debt, a lot of times to companies that issue stablecoins, by the way. So crypto is kind of this convenient way to offload all this government debt. And the U.S. government is buying gold itself. So you can't as easily call this a top signal when you see just normal people lining up to buy gold. Because he's saying, well, the government's buying it too, so this time is kind of weird. It's harder to predict what central banks are going to decide to do versus if it was only retail buying gold, that would be a different story. Then, as we know, of course, he brags about PulseChain, Hex, and PulseX working just fine, Pump.tires working just fine during the big outage. The big outage being Amazon Web Services and stuff like even Sora. Now, Sora, this is a base app. And if you'll notice, I made an account on the Sora app. This is like a DeFi crypto Instagram. I've got my account right here. Basically, a Trojan horse way to shill PulseChain. You can see I've got my Liberty Swap link up in here. Because one, yes, you can make money for posting. I'm already posting the same stuff on Twitter. So if I post these same posts and get some exposure to a new group of people, a new group of crypto guys, maybe some base people will follow and learn about LibertySwap.finance, where they can bridge from base into PulseChain. Just a little tangent about Zora, not Sora. This is Zora with a Z, Zora.co. So follow me over here. If you're already posting, you actually can get paid to post over here. Yes, it's on the Base network. Yes, we just talked about Base being semi-centralized, but new pockets of people for relatively low risk. Use a burner wallet. Don't use your, cold wallet, of course. If we all follow each other, maybe we go promote PulseChain over here. Just a thought. And maybe the people of the Base network would like to hear about LibertySwap.finance, which is our bridge from Base to PulseChain, privacy-preserving bridge, 2-minute settlements, really good user experience, pumping the Peacock token. I think they'd like to hear about it. When they do their live streaming feature too, I'm going to be very excited to use that live streaming feature on Zora.co. PulseChain stablecoins, I've already talked about this, but PulseChainStats.com, this is a new stats website that came out. PulseChainStats.com is great. You can see all the good stuff that we like to talk about in PulseChain, like PulseX. For example, the TVL being $185 million in TVL on the primary DEX on PulseChain. And the cool part about this is that you can compare it to other DEXs, see how much room for growth we have. And you can even see the PulseX coin itself, 7% of the supply burnt, 1.5 trillion tokens, never coming back. This is a purely deflationary token. It gets bought and burned based on trading fees going through it. So imagine if Uni token was valuable. That's what makes PulseX valuable, because it's actually benefiting from the volume of the exchange. So if you own PulseX, you're bullish on PulseX, the exchange, getting more volume. You basically become a representative of the PulseChain system. The whole network incentivizes you financially to get more people trading on it, regardless of whatever meme coins it is, because then all of our numbers go up, even if you're trading the most absolute garbage in the world. Now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, Richard Hart's Sacrifice wallet. Now it's rumored to be owned by Richard Hart. This was the Sacrifice address, cumulative sum. This $3.4 million right here that you see on the screen, this used to say $600 million just one day ago. Now what happened? Well, it seems that whoever owns Sacrifice wallet, rumored to be Richard, could be a small group of people, we don't know. This $600 million or even $700 million, it was almost $1 billion at one point. It was in profit on its dollar cost average trade, buying ETH at 3,800. So Ethereum is 4,000 now, but it was seen splitting up its ETH into all these separate wallets. So all these Sacrifice wallets that were holding all the ETH, they've been moving Ethereum to other wallets. Now, why is this happening? Well, about 13 days ago, we saw 5,000 ETH go through Tornado Cash. This is good. A lot of people wallet track, and one of the issues with the buybacks that we saw from the Sacrifice wallet in 2024, just to be totally blunt, be totally honest, people were front running that. People were getting on board because they saw what was happening, and they were opportunists. And they were just coming over because they saw the Sacrifice wallet pumping the ecosystem, and they came to hitch a ride for free for providing no value at all and then just dump right away, leaving the true believers holding the bag for even longer. Now, wouldn't you want the element of surprise next time? So it seems that Richard or whoever has been learning about the past and how to handle this system where you probably want some Tornado Cash anonymity because the element of surprise is very important and timing is everything. when it comes to, if you pump it too early, like we saw back a year ago, you had the Trump election going on, the SEC case was still going on, the liquidity was like 10 times higher. And even then, $20 million injected in, everything pumped, all the core coins pumped 6 or 7x. That's pretty good, considering all the negative sell pressure, all the negative events, the news, the environment. Now we don't have any of that. Now we've got 10 times lower liquidity. We've got no SEC case. We've got a crypto regulatory friendly environment. And ETH is now finally back at all-time highs. The Federal Reserve finally going to lower interest rates a couple more times. So imagine just a little bit of that ETH coming in from random anonymous wallets that you cannot track, you cannot front run. So that's probably what else is going on here too. The recent Ethereum moves, they did not go through Tornado Cash yet. The last time we saw any funds moving through Tornado was about 12, 13 days ago. But the reason behind this might possibly be that you'd seen PulseChain in number 5 over here, okay? This is the strategic Ethereum reserve. You saw PulseChain sitting at number 5, again, just one day ago. With 160,000 ETH, it was the 5th highest holder of ETH. And at one point, it sounded like Richard wanted that. It sounded like he wanted PulseChain to be front and center for the marketing value. But maybe now, maybe there's some chess moves being played. You understand what I mean? So maybe there's less of a benefit to using PulseChain sacrifice wallets as marketing and start using them in other ways. Let your imagination run wild here. And if anybody's saying somehow that he's blowing it all, he's spending it all on himself, look, we don't have any way to know this, but I can tell you that this guy probably cares more about his projects than 95% of other founders that I've seen in the ecosystem. You got CZ, you got Vitalik. These guys all stick around, but Richard really wants to win. If you know nothing else at all about Richard, it's that he really wants the glory. He wants to succeed and doesn't want to be known as the guy that lost in the long run. But he is playing a long game. And to play a long game, you have to make moves in advance, right, ahead of time. So if you're anticipating that Ethereum's going to be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 soon, maybe you want to make that chess move ahead of time so that you get PulseChain off of the top 5. Now, it's still down here somewhere. Let's see. It's still down here at number 51. So you're still on the list, but this might be a signal to kind of stop talking about PulseChain being a strategic Ethereum reserve. Really, the strategic Ethereum reserve was aligned to protect the price of Ethereum. So could this be a signal that the PulseChain sacrifice wallet doesn't really care as much anymore about protecting the price of Ethereum and perhaps protecting the price of anything else? I don't know. You believe what you want to believe, but it does seem that having it right here in the top 5 for marketing purposes is probably not the priority right now, which is interesting to see. It's always a dynamic system. There's always moves being played. And here's a little something just for the conspiracy theorists out there. I mean, the timing on this, it's probably a coincidence, but it is a very interesting coincidence. When does October start? This is Richard Hart, 3 days ago, October 17th, asking when does October start? And then Liberty Swap chimes in with 21 p.m., sir. That's 9 p.m. for those that don't know. 9 p.m. is when October starts, according to Liberty Swap. And then you go over and you look at when was the sacrifice wallet moving Ethereum out into fresh addresses to get it off of all the eyeballs, to get it off of the ETH Reserve website, so people would stop wallet watching. My guess is this was to stop wallet watching, but what time? You can't make this stuff up, guys. Look, 8:40 p.m. UTC time. Probably a coincidence. Just saying. Pretty interesting, pretty fun conspiracy theory there. So believe whatever you want, but it seems that the angle has changed again from not wanting to use this as a billboard to have a really big number here, instead having a smaller number here and moving in silence and moving in privacy through Tornado Cash, all these other things, and just breaking all these funds up into more and more smaller wallets. You understand? So that's what's been going on in PulseChain. Hope that was a good update for you. Check out Sora. Get an invite link for Sora if you don't have one already. Now, Sora is very funny. Don't forget about that giveaway, guys. Check out Sora. Make some viral PulseChain content over here. You got Richard Hart, South Park version of Richard again. You got a homeless, I think there's like a homeless hexagon joke. A homeless guy made by Hexologist. Hexologist is already out here killing it. And if you make something funny, you might win $50 and you might get to pump your own bag in the process. Check these out on sora.chatgpt.com. And of course, as always, guys, make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, on Twitter. Follow me on Zora. Remember, this is the DeFi Instagram, crypto Instagram. And if you need help, if you need crypto help, one-on-one tips, troubleshooting, support, you want to talk strategy, if you hop over to my Twitter, you press that subscribe button, you're going to get access to me one-on-one, my Discord channel. $10 a month. You support the channel, and you get my one-on-one attention because there's only 24 hours in a day. Happy to help if you press that little subscribe button with whatever you need. Crypto related, of course. No financial advice. Guys, like, subscribe, comment, share the video, help the algorithm go viral. See you on the next one.